copper, gold, oil, some kind of basket of commodities, because printing paper that's absolutely worthless, people are going to realize this is worthless. Why would I buy this debt? And then eventually you're going to have a bond buyer's strike, and you're going to have Armageddon in the bond markets, which we haven't seen yet because you've still got people that are sheepling along and listening to the narratives. But believe me, this is going to get pretty ugly pretty quickly when people realize that this is the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. Now, the book that I wrote obviously was a little bit before its time, but everything in it still holds, and this Ponzi scheme is ready to blow.
Right. Now let's talk about China for a second. You mentioned that, China still takes our paper money. People still buy stuff. That money ends up going to China. The incomes in America in the last few years went from 19 trillion to 24 trillion. It's a $5 trillion increase based on transfer payments. That is to say, money printing from the Fed. And of course, they went out and bought stuff at Walmart and other big box stores, which means it just went over to China. So China is still accepting the paper money from America. And the question is it, when are they just going to say, we're not going to take that money anymore? And concurrently, I have a part of this question is that half of the Fortune 500 now in the U.S. are Chinese companies. So is there a game plan to kind of play possum? To say, we'll take your funny money and we're going to buy half of the S&P 500 until such time as we own the S&P 500, and then we won't take your funny money anymore. What's going on, Mitch?
Well, I don't think China can pull that stunt because they're too exposed to the dollar. But I think that they will come out with a parallel currency to replace the dollar. I think, look, the U.S. is pretty much a one-party system, and they want tribalism. So they want the two tribes of Republicans and Democrats fighting with each other, while the biggest plunder in economic history happens, it favors China. And the oligarchs of Silicon Valley point to this better than anybody else. Facebook, Twitter, Google, they all censor people in America because they want 3 billion new customers in China. So they're in China's bailiwick right now. The same thing with Elon Musk over at Tesla. China rocks. Remember that quote? And he's moved everything to China. So China will...
Did you hear that? He said Elon Musk moved everything to China. The majority of the manufacturing is located in China. China is the new bully on the block, so to speak, economically. This place is done. Trump said he's going to make America again great again, and that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. America's on its last leg. Just telling the truth.
Has probably won the war without a shot being fired, because the politicians are purchased by China. Nobody, and I said it on your program a couple of years ago, that China's the issue. Russia's not an issue at all. So the problem with China is nobody has the ability to say anything because they're all panicked and afraid to make a comment. Like New Zealand and the Five Eyes took the cash, and now the other 4 members of Five Eyes are pretty upset with New Zealand for doing that, and it's very difficult because China's throwing bundles of cash out there.
Yeah, I was thinking at some point Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac could be sold to China, and then China would be America's biggest landlord, and that might ring some bells. Or
did you hear that? China will be America's biggest landlord.
Maybe not. Speaking of having people's bell rung, Joe Biden wants to raise corporate taxes to 28% from 21% and double the capital gains tax to over 40%. This doesn't sound like a winning formula to compete with China. Mitch, what do you think?
The rich, the super rich, are in process of leaving America to avoid that tax. Capital gains tax, look that up, will now be 40%. It was 40%, 40% prior to Trump being in office. Trump lowered the taxes for the rich, and as soon as Biden came in, one of the first things he did was raise the taxes back to the level that it was before Trump came into office. So the super rich, they're just going to leave. They're just going to leave. They're going to leave America.
I don't know. I don't think he's running the show. I don't think he knows what's going on. I think this is Bernie Sanders and.
Did you hear what he just said? He said, I don't think he's running the show. He's talking about Biden. Well, I know he's not running the show. He's the ultimate puppet.
Kamala Harris and AOC that are behind the scenes here, but this is going to end in disaster because the economy is not better. There is no recovery. It's a fake recovery, just like we have the fake shrinkflation, and they're lying about the inflation numbers, the employment numbers. All you have is a Fed printing money, and this money has made it look like there's improvement, but this is as good as it gets. The beginning of this year was as good as you're going to see. Everything's going to have a precipitous decline from now on, and raising taxes is just going to put fuel on the fire and make things worse because it doesn't help profits. It doesn't help. We don't have productivity. All we have is money printing. And in order for an economy to thrive, we need to make.
Did you hear what he just said? He said all we have is money printing. We don't have productivity. They're not creating anything. This place, Babylon the Great, has become a paper tiger, and the other nations see that. China sees it, Russia sees it, the Arab world sees it. So basically, they're leaving Babylon the Great to itself, and ultimately, see, another thing, man. They don't know what's getting ready to happen in the near future. See, we know they should be watching us.
We're making nothing. We're spending money that we're printing, and that's the only thing that sustains this ridiculous, farcical recovery that the Federal Reserve claims that we have.
Right now, Warren Buffett.
Hey, this devil here is telling the truth. He's shooting it straight. He's shooting it straight, and Jake doesn't know. Jake just doesn't know what's going on. They don't know it's. They shall grope in the noon day as a blind gropeth in darkness. In Deuteronomy the 28th chapter is referring to Jake not knowing what the hell is going on. The only Israelites that know what's going on, what's going on, are the Israelites. Number one is GMS. You got to start listening to GMS because we have 100% truth through the power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai.
It has underperformed the S&P 500 for the past 20 years. He and Charlie Munger now say that it is Bitcoin, not fiat, which is not only, quote, disgusting, but a threat to the interest of civilization. Which do you think is the greater threat? Charlie Munger and his fiat or Bitcoin? Mitch?
I think Janet Yellen running the Treasury is a bigger threat than all of them. I mean, look, she couldn't get it right at the Federal Reserve. I did a presentation in Switzerland via Zoom, and there were a couple slides. Here's one of them about Janet Yellen when she was at the central bank. There's too much corruption in central banks right now. She was paid $8 million by lobbying organizations and big banks